Have you ever felt like you're surrounded by people, yet still completely alone? Like no one really sees you, not even when you smile. You wake up, and it feels like the weight of the world is already sitting on your chest. You go through the day pretending to be okay, but inside, something is missing. Something is aching, and you don't even know what it is anymore. Sometimes, the worst kind of pain is the one you can't explain. You're not broken, but you're tired. Tired of carrying invisible wounds. Tired of pretending. Tired of feeling disconnected from the world, from people, from yourself. If you feel this, even a little, then this video is for you. Because today, I'm not just going to talk about healing. I'm going to walk you through 5 powerful Buddhist, timeless truths that have helped millions find peace, even in their darkest moments. And within these teachings, you'll discover 10 hidden signs that your soul may be quietly calling out for, healing signs most people ignore until it's too late. But this won't just be theory or philosophy. No. By the end of this video, you'll know how to reconnect with yourself, with the present moment, and with the quiet strength that's already inside you. So take a breath, slow down, and stay with me, because the last lesson in this video might just be the one that changes everything for you. As Buddha once said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Even now, even in this moment. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Impermanence. This too shall pass. One of the most powerful truths in Buddhism, and also one of the first teachings, the Buddha Remedies, the concept of impermanence. It means that nothing in this world is permanent. Every thought, emotion, situation, relationship, success or struggle, no matter how intense or overwhelming, is temporary, always changing, always flowing like a river. Nothing lasts forever, not the good moments, but not the painful ones either. In the moments when life feels heavy, when your heart aches with loneliness or your mind is clouded with sadness, it's easy to believe that this is how things will always be, that this pain is permanent, that this version of you, tired, broken and lost, is who you truly are now. But the truth is, what you're feeling today is not a life sentence, it is a passing cloud, and the sky of your soul remains unchanged, untouched, and always capable of shining again. Buddhism teaches us that clinging to any state, whether pleasure or pain, creates suffering, because the nature of all things is to arise and then fade. Just like the seasons shift, just like the waves rise and fall, your emotions too are meant to come and go. They are visitors, not permanent residents. Sign 1. You feel like your sadness or emotional pain is permanent, like it's become part of who you are. If you've been feeling stuck in a dark emotional space for so long that you've started to believe this is just your new normal, that this is who you've become, then this is a sign that you've lost sight of impermanence. You may have begun to identify with your suffering instead of seeing it as a passing experience. You might say things like, "This is just how I am now," or "Nothing will ever change," which reflects a deep inner belief that the storm will never pass. But remember, even the most violent storms pass, and the sky always returns. Sign 2. You wake up every day with the same emotional weight, convinced that joy is no longer possible. When impermanence is forgotten, it becomes hard to believe that happiness could ever return. You might wake up already feeling emotionally drained before the day even starts. There's no excitement, no lightness, only a quiet resignation that this is just life now. But what you're truly experiencing is not the absence of joy, it's the absence of hope. And Buddhism reminds us that hope can be reborn the moment we remember. Nothing stays the same, not even this. Wisdom to remember. When you're suffering, your mind will try to convince you that it will last forever. But the truth that Buddhists have trusted for over 500 years is that every emotion has a beginning, middle, and end. What hurts today will not hurt forever. What feels unbearable now will shift, soften, and change. Nothing stays the same, not even pain. Instead of resisting your feelings or drowning in them, learn to observe them as if you were watching waves on the shore. Let each emotion come, let it stay, and then watch it go. Even the longest night ends in dawn. Even this moment, whatever it is, will pass. Lesson 2. Suffering comes from attachment. One of the most profound and life-changing teachings of the Buddha is centered around the idea of dukkha, Pali, word often translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, or emotional unease. But what makes this teaching so powerful is not just that suffering exists because everyone, at some point, experiences pain. It's that the root of most of our suffering lies in attachment. Attachment doesn't just mean material things. It goes much deeper than that. It's our attachment to people, memories, identities, expectations, outcomes, even emotions. It's the mental grip we have on how things should be, and the resistance we feel when life doesn't match that image. We suffer not only because something happened, but because we cannot accept that it happened. We want things to last forever. We want people to stay. We want circumstances to be under our control. And when they change us, all things eventually hurt. When you attach your peace to anything temporary, whether it's a relationship, a job, someone's approval, or even your own idea of happiness, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Because everything in this life is constantly shifting. People leave, feelings fade, moments pass, and the tighter we cling, the more it hurts when things begin to slip through our fingers. But here's the truth. Freedom comes not by holding on, but by learning how to let go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean you never cared. It means releasing the need to control what is outside your control and finding peace in the present moment as it is. Now let's talk about how this shows up in your life, because often we don't even realize that attachment is the cause of our pain. Sign 3. You find yourself constantly replaying painful memories or conversations in your mind, unable to move on. If your thoughts keep going back to a specific moment, a person who hurt you, a loss you can't seem to accept, this is a sign that your mind is clinging to the past. You may feel stuck in a mental loop, asking yourself, what if? Or, why did this happen to me? You're not just remembering, you're reliving. This creates emotional exhaustion and blocks your ability to heal. The pain becomes heavier not because of the memory itself, but because of your attachment to it. Sign 4. You are afraid to let go even when you know something or someone is hurting you. Sometimes we hold on to things that are clearly harming our well-being, like toxic relationships, unhealthy habits, or emotional patterns, simply because letting go feels more terrifying than staying in pain. You might say to yourself, at least I know this pain, or I don't know who I'd be without it. But this fear is a reflection of deep attachment. You're not just holding on to the situation, you're holding on to the identity and security you think it gives you. Letting go feels like losing control, but in truth, it is how we regain it. A deeper reflection. Attachment tricks us into thinking that by holding on, we're protecting ourselves, that if we just try harder, if we don't give up, we won't feel the pain of loss. But ironically, it is that very attachment that prolongs and deepens our suffering. Buddhism teaches us that liberation comes through non-attachment, not through avoidance or suppression, but through deep awareness and acceptance. This doesn't mean you should stop loving people or caring about things. It means learning to love and care without fear, to live fully but lightly, to give your heart but not let it be chained. Start noticing where your pain is rooted, not just on the surface, but underneath. Ask yourself, am I hurting because of what happened? or because I cannot accept that it happened? That one question can reveal the doorway to your healing. When you begin to loosen your Greifweven just a little, you create space for something new to enter: peace, clarity, strength. You begin to suffer less, not because life becomes perfect, but because you've changed the way you hold it. The moment you realize that you are not your pain, and that you have the power to release what no longer serves you, is the moment your healing truly begins. Lesson 3. Mindfulness, the art of coming home to yourself. In the teachings of the Buddha, few practices are as deeply transformative and life-anchoring as sati, known in English as mindfulness. It's more than just a meditation method. It's not about sitting quietly in lotus position or chanting mantras in a perfect room. No, mindfulness is far more intimate, far more personal. It is the act of fully arriving into the moment you are already living, with open awareness, with softness, and with courage. Most of us are living far from ourselves. Our bodies may be present in the room, but our minds are somewhere else, entirely spinning in cycles of what went wrong yesterday, worrying about what might go wrong tomorrow, constantly drifting away from now. In that space of absence, we lose the ability to hear our own hearts. We lose the clarity of our inner truth. And with that, our loneliness deepens, not just from others, but from ourselves. Buddhism teaches that mindfulness is the doorway back to that inner connection. It is how we learn to gently watch our thoughts and emotions instead of drowning in them. It's the practice of slowing down enough to notice how you feel, what you're thinking, what your body is holding. And through this awareness, we begin to see the nature of our suffering without running, without judging, without reacting. That moment of still observation, that pause, is where healing begins. Because here's the truth. Most of us are not just lonely. We are disconnected. Disconnected from our breath, from our emotions, from our inner world. Disconnected from what we truly need. And the pain we feel is often not because we are alone, but because we have left ourselves. Now let's explore some of the real-life signs that this disconnection is affecting you, signs that may seem subtle on the surface, but point toward a much deeper emotional struggle. Sign 5. You feel emotionally numb or hollow inside, even when life appears normal on the outside. This is a quiet form of suffering that many people don't talk about. It's not dramatic. It doesn't always involve tears or breakdowns. It's that silent emptiness you feel when you're going through the motions of life, working, eating, replying to messages, maybe even smiling at people, but inside, there's a sense that something essential is missing. You don't feel fully alive. You don't feel connected to what you're doing. It's like you're watching yourself from a distance. This numbness often grows when you've been avoiding how you truly feel for too long. Mindfulness begins the healing by gently inviting you to come back into your body, to notice your breath, to reconnect with what's real in this moment, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. Sign 6. Your thoughts never stop moving. You're always caught between replaying the past and fearing the future. One of the clearest signs that mindfulness is missing from your life is when your mind feels like a storm that never ends. You may lie awake at night, replaying things you regret, or constantly worry about what might happen tomorrow. You might try to distract yourself with entertainment or noise just to get a break from your own thinking. This constant mental noise wears down your emotional health over time, leaving you tired, anxious, and emotionally unstable. But mindfulness offers a radical shift. It invites you to stop fighting your thoughts and simply observe them. To watch the thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky, without attaching to them, without following them. And in doing so, you begin to experience moments of stillness, moments of peace, not because your life has changed, but because you have changed the way you experience it. A deeper reflection. The miracle of mindfulness is that it does not ask you to escape your life or to become someone new. It asks you to return to this breath, to this moment, to the truth of what is happening inside you. It gives you the courage to feel what you've been running from and the gentleness to sit with it without shame. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to be perfect. You simply have to be present with whatever is real. And being present does not mean pretending that everything is okay. It means saying, "This is what I feel, this is what's here, and I will not abandon myself in this moment." That commitment to presence, even in pain, is where your healing begins. Because once you stop running from your emotions, they no longer control you. They simply move through you, like waves on the shore. So breathe. Right now, pause. Feel your breath moving in, feel it leaving. Notice the space between those breaths. That space is you returning to yourself. Mindfulness is not a tool you use once and forget. It is a relationship you build with your mind, your heart, your soul. It is how you begin to trust yourself again, to listen, to hold space for your own experience, to reconnect with your deepest humanity. Because no matter how lost you feel, no matter how far you think you've fallen away from peace, the present moment is always waiting to welcome you back. And in that stillness, in that breath, you will remember you were never truly alone. You were just waiting for yourself to come home. Lesson 4. Compassion, the healing power of an open heart. There is a kind of strength that doesn't need to shout. A kind of healing that doesn't rely on fixing, forcing, or pretending to be fine. It's quiet, gentle, but powerful. And in Buddhism, this healing force is known as karuna, compassion. Compassion is not just being kind when things are easy. It's not a smile on the surface or a soft voice that hides pain. No, true compassion, real karuna, is a deep and sacred response to suffering, both in others and in ourselves. It is the brave decision to keep your heart open, even when it hurts. To meet pain not with fear or anger, but with tenderness and understanding. The Buddha taught that compassion is not weakness, it is wisdom in action. It is the recognition that suffering is a shared part of human existence, that no one escapes it. That no matter how different our lives may appear on the outside, at the core, we all know what it feels like to hurt, to long, to lose, to be uncertain. Compassion turns that truth into connection. And connection is what heals loneliness. Because often, when we suffer, we believe we are alone. We isolate, we hide, we turn inward and judge ourselves. But the truth is this: your suffering does not make you unworthy, it makes you human. And compassion is the key to remembering that. Now let's explore how a lack of compassion shows up in your inner world. 2 signs that may seem normal on the outside, but are actually signals of deep emotional exhaustion and self-abandonment. Sign 7. You speak to yourself harshly when you're struggling, using words you'd never say to someone you love. You may not even notice it at first. It becomes a quiet, constant voice inside your head. When you make a mistake, it says, "You're so stupid." When you feel sad, it whispers, "You're too sensitive, get over it." When you're tired, it says, "You're lazy." This voice might sound like it's trying to push you forward, but in truth, it's slowly pulling you apart. This inner critic was likely shaped by your past, by unmet expectations, old wounds, maybe even voices of others that you internalized long ago. Over time, you learn to motivate yourself through guilt or fear. But this only deepens the loneliness. Because the one person you always carry with you, yourself, is also the one attacking you. Compassion gently breaks this cycle. It invites you to notice your suffering and respond with the words you needed to hear all along. It's okay. You're doing your best. You're allowed to feel this. This is not self-pity. It's emotional reparenting. It's learning to be the safe space for yourself that you never had before. And in doing so, You begin to replace the sharpness of your inner voice with something healing your own kindness. Sign 8. You find it hard to accept love, support, or compliments from other 7 when they are sincere. When someone gives you a compliment, do you quickly deflect it? When someone says they care, do you feel suspicious or uncomfortable? When a friend offers help, do you smile and say, "I'm fine," even when you're not? This difficulty in receiving love is not because you don't want it. It's because deep down, a part of you believes you don't deserve it. Somewhere along the way, you may have been made to feel like your needs were too much, your emotions were inconvenient, or your presence was not enough. And so now, even when someone shows you care, your body tenses, your heart guards itself. You smile on the outside, but you silently brace for rejection. But compassion reminds you, you are not broken. You are just protecting yourself. And it's okay. You survived by learning not to expect love. But now, it's time to learn how to receive it. Slowly, gently, without pressure, with compassion, you begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, you are lovable as you are. That you don't have to perform or prove anything. That you are enough, even in your quietest, most vulnerable state. And when you begin to open yourself to receive even a little, that's when loneliness begins to dissolve. Not because others are filling the void, but because you've stopped hiding from your own worthiness. A deeper reflection. Compassion is the soul's softest, yet most unshakable truth. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to hurt, to fall apart, to feel lost. And none of it makes you any less worthy of love. In fact, the heart of compassion beats strongest in the places we thought were unlovable. It is not reserved for the moments when you are confident, strong, or smiling. Compassion is needed most when your hands are shaking, when your tears are quiet, when you wake up and feel heavy and don't know why. It is in those moments when you least feel deserving that compassion must rise like the sun within you. It doesn't ask you to rush your healing. It doesn't force you to change overnight. It simply whispers, "I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere." When you begin to offer yourself this kind of presence, gentle, unwavering, accepting, you slowly become your own sanctuary, a place where shame has no place to root. A space where even your sadness can rest without fear. And when you can hold yourself this way, something beautiful begins to happen. Your heart opens to others, not out of obligation, but out of overflow, because now you know the pain of being unseen. And you also know the power of being held, even if that holding begins with your own hands. So remember this: you don't have to earn your worth. You don't have to prove you are lovable. You don't have to hide the parts of you that still hurt. You are enough, as you are, right now. And Karuna, compassion, is here to remind you of that. Lesson 5. The middle way, walking between the extremes. There comes a moment in every person's life when they ask themselves, why do I keep swinging between extremes? Why do I feel like I'm either drowning or numb? Why can't I ever seem to find peace in the middle? This is the human condition, pushed by desires on one side and crushed by despair on the other. We chase happiness like a mirage, running faster and harder, believing that success, validation, or distractions will finally make us whole. And then, when those things don't fill us, we collapse into avoidance, self-punishment, or hopelessness. One day we feel inspired, the next we feel empty. We live in cycles of all or nothing, and in between, we forget what it means to simply be. But the Buddha saw this suffering clearly, and he gave us a path not of perfection, not of extremes, but of profound balance. This is the teaching of Majjhima Patipada, the middle way, the sacred path of walking between the edges of indulgence and self-denial, between attachment and aversion, between chaos and control. It is not a rigid rule book, It is not about being in the middle in some neutral, boring way. No, it is the path of wisdom and compassion woven together, a path that meets reality as it is, without clinging or resisting. The middle way invites us to stop searching outside ourselves for happiness in fleeting pleasures, and also to stop punishing ourselves through spiritual extremism or emotional suppression. It teaches us to live gently yet firmly, to make space for both light and shadow, to live with intention but not obsession, to rest without guilt, to grow without self-violence, to love without losing ourselves. And this is perhaps the most beautiful part of this path. It reminds us that peace was never outside of us. It was never in the highs or the lows. It was always waiting in the stillness between them. Now let's explore 2 signs that you may be unknowingly living in emotional extremes and how the middle way can begin to free you from this invisible cage. Sign 9. You constantly swing between burnout and numbness, either doing everything at once or avoiding everything completely. This is one of the clearest, yet most overlooked signs of inner imbalance. There are days when you overwork, overthink, overcommit, and overperform, believing that your worth depends on what you accomplish. You keep yourself busy, not because you're full of energy, but because you're afraid of stopping, afraid of what you might feel if you slow down. And then, suddenly, like a rubber band stretched too far, you snap and fall into the opposite extreme. You can't get out of bed. You cancel everything. You feel emotionally shut down. The things you once cared about feel meaningless. You aren't lazy, you're just exhausted. But because you live in this loop, you tell yourself you're failing. You judge yourself on both ends. The truth is, your nervous system was never meant to swing this violently. The middle way teaches you to break this cycle not by doing more or quitting everything, but by learning to listen to your body and spirit with balance. It reminds you that rest is not failure, that steady, gentle progress is more sustainable than constant extremes, that discipline is not the enemy of peace, it's the container for it, and that a truly meaningful life is built not in the extreme highs or collapses, but in the quiet, mindful steps you take in between. Sign 10. You live in cycles of emotional highs, followed by deep crashes, feeling amazing one moment, then empty the next. This is an emotional pattern many people live with without even realizing it. You feel euphoric when things are going well, when someone texts you back, when your plans work out, when you feel seen or appreciated. But then, with even the smallest disappointment, you crash, suddenly overcome by a wave of sadness, worthlessness, or despair. You start to feel like your emotions are controlling your life. Like you can't trust your own feelings. You live on a roller coaster, constantly searching for the next high to escape the quiet pain that always follows. This pattern is rooted in attachment, the unconscious belief that your peace comes from outer events, people, or achievements. But the middle way teaches us something radical and freeing. Peace does not come from high-sit, comes from presence. It's not about numbing your emotions or becoming a robot. It's about becoming the calm observer of your feelings, rather than being swept away by them. It's about cultivating inner stability, so that joy doesn't become intoxication and sadness doesn't become despair. And through this, you begin to live with more emotional equanimity, more grounded, more centered, more whole. You learn that it's okay to feel deeply, but you don't have to be defined by every wave. You learn how to feel joy without clinging, pain without collapsing, and through that, you find something far greater than just feeling good. You find emotional freedom, a deeper reflection. The middle way is not the path of perfection, it is the path of integration. It asks you to bring all of yourself, your light, your darkness, your pain, your joy into the present moment with honesty and compassion. It is not an escape from life, but an invitation to live it more fully, without being consumed by it. This path says, you don't have to chase extremes to feel alive. You don't have to break down to deserve rest. You don't have to constantly prove yourself to earn love. You simply have to walk with awareness, step by step, breath by breath, honoring your limits, honoring your needs, honoring your humanity. When you begin to live this way, everything changes, not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, gently. Your anxiety softens, your loneliness eases, your heart begins to feel safe again. And you realize, peace was never in the destination, it was always in the way you walk. So, take this path not because it promises instant results, but because it leads you back to the one place you've always longed to return to, yourself. And that is the middle way. Conclusion: you are not alone, you are becoming. So now, as we come to the end of this journey, pause. Take a breath. Not the kind of breath that rushes through you while you're thinking of the next thing, but the kind of breath that reminds you, you are here. You've made it through this moment. You are still standing. And that is not small. That is not weak. That is sacred. We've walked through 5 lessons, 5 ancient truths that aren't just Buddhist ideas, but timeless human truths. We learned that everything in life, including pain, is impermanent, that it will pass, that even your darkest night has a morning waiting on the other side. We saw how attachment creates suffering, not because we care too much, but because we grasp for what is always changing, hoping it will stay the same. We looked into the mirror of interconnectedness and realized we are not as alone as we think, that even when we feel isolated, we are part of something greater, a web of lives, emotions, and silent struggles. We felt the warmth of compassion and how just a single shift in how we speak to ourselves can begin to heal years of silent pain. And finally, we discovered the quiet strength of the middle wire life, lived not in extremes, but in balance, in presence, in peace. But here's the truth. These aren't just lessons to hear. They're lessons to live. And living them won't always be easy. Sometimes you'll forget. Sometimes you'll fall. Sometimes you'll feel like you're starting all over again. But that too is the path. This journey is not about becoming someone else. It's not about fixing yourself. It's about returning to who you've always been beneath the noisier human being worthy of love, of healing, of peace. So, if you've been feeling lost, if you've been waking up with that quiet ache, wondering if anyone sees you, know this: you are not alone. Not now, not ever. Your pain does not separate you, it connects you. To me, to everyone listening, to the very heart of what it means to be alive. You are not broken, you are becoming, slowly, gently, truthfully, beautifully, and somewhere deep within you, even if you've forgotten how to feel it, you already know the way home. Keep walking.